What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave, and oh boy, we get to talk about WWE 2K18 on the Switch once again today. Well, we're kind of talking about it. We're definitely talking about why 2K19 appears to be skipping the Switch, because Take-Two, or 2K Sports, they put out a statement that I guess gives us a little bit of an insight. Not really. It still is kind of us trying to figure it out. But we do know, yes, it is skipping the Switch, at least for now. We also have to talk a bit about Nintendo bloating their eShop, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon, specifically from Nintendo themselves talking about this. We're going to get into all of that. First, though, I need to give you guys a reminder. We do have Inside Xbox later on today. That's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern Time or noon Pacific. I would check it out, at least stop in. They're going to drop some kind of news on us, whether it's Game Pass editions or backwards compatibility, or maybe they'll actually do something with like a brand new game or announcement or something. We'll see, but generally the last one at least wasn't very good, but other ones they have had quite a few announcements. Specifically, a few Inside Xboxes ago, they did show a ton of backwards compatibility, and that was really, really cool to see. I'm looking for something for Game Pass. Specifically, I'm thinking we might get that announcement for the Master Chief Collection. I think it's happening eventually, and Inside Xbox seems to be an easy place just to drop that news, and it'd be a good game to get more people back into. Also, it looks like Fortnite Season 5 is starting in the next couple days. It appears to be July 12th, and this was actually on their official Twitter account, as you're seeing here, where they simply said this was yesterday, 3 days until Season 5. Of course, there was a big rocket that went off into space, into the sky, and now we have these cracks in the sky right now, so people are trying to figure out what's going to happen, whether it's going to be some kind of shift in the map, or just things change in general. We do know a new Battle Pass is going to be going up for sale, so you'll have to be picking that up. Should be $9.99 as usual if you want to do all of that. You'll have to pick up a new one, and it should last 10 weeks, of course. But look forward to that. If you're a big Fortnite fan, you probably got really excited seeing Season 5 starting up in the next few days, because everyone is wondering, at least right now, what's going to be changing. You should have an update that you download sometime on the 12th. And then from there, we'll see what happens. Also, we had a surprise announcement for Hand of Fate 2. Well, kind of. Defiant had talked about at least interest, or expressed interest, in having this game come over to the Switch. Indie games are doing well. It seemed like something they could make happen on the Switch, and they were at least interested. Well, yeah, it's happening, and it's actually happening next week. They announced it yesterday, and it's coming out the 17th of July, that quickly. It's like, boom, announced, oh, you can go get it next week. I do like those kind of announcements. It's quick, it's fast, and we go, okay, yeah, that's great. I'll go pick that up next week if I'm interested. Of course, this has already been out on Steam for a bit now, and there are people who liked it. Evan actually liked the first one. He played the second one, I believe, too. And he said it was a cool idea where it was a mix of like action RPG with like card games and almost like Dungeons and Dragons. It's a very interesting game. I would go look up some gameplay or even a review on it to see if it's something you would want to pick up. This appears to have all of the DLC up to now included, and we're going to see how it runs and everything and how it looks. But overall, it's an interesting idea. I would just check out some reviews before you pick it up to make sure it's your kind of game. I do know Evan liked it. I saw him play it a lot on Steam. Whenever I log into Steam, he'd be playing it there was like a month straight where that's all he was playing. So it must be pretty good. I'll actually ask him on the podcast this weekend about it, see if he can let us know anything about it. Also, Monster Hunter World did get that release date. We talked about it possibly being in August. Do you remember how I was like, I think August would make sense for it? August 9th is when it's coming out. We talked about the requirements yesterday, the system requirements. Yes, they appear to be the same ones and everything. Although they do say 20 gigabytes of hard drive space, it will support 4K resolution, but I'm curious as to how that hard drive space is required is so small, right? Unless they're not using actual 4K assets or anything. It's just standard assets that they have at maybe like 1080p, and it's just upscaled and everything to 4K. Although they are talking about at least 60 frames per second being supported as well, something that the console versions don't really do that well. I believe it's just an uncapped frame rate or just a 30 frames per second cap. And it is kind of all over the place with an uncapped frame rate. So this way, if you have the rig to do it, you can max it and get that nice frame rate, 60, maybe even more than that. We'll have to see when they release it if there is a higher option, whether it's 120 or maybe you have a 144 hertz monitor, you can just uncap it and go. But we'll see. It does look like it's not gonna be the hardest game ever to run, which is cool. And honestly, that hard drive space being smaller it's very refreshing in the world of 100 gigabyte downloads that we kind of deal with now. All right, with some of the smaller news out of the way, guys, let's get into some of the bigger stuff, including Nintendo having 20 to 30 indie games released every single week. At least that's their goal going forward. Remember how we had that 78th annual gathering of the shareholders and everything where they voted in the new president, talked about some other stuff. They had a lot of questions. Well, recently they did release the full translation, official translation of everything that happened there. And one of them in particular was a quote from Takahashi about indie games. During development on the Nintendo Switch, creating a development environment where it would be easy to create games was one of our top priorities. One of the good things to come from this is the large number of indie games, especially in Europe and North America. We do not think of indie games as competition for the large-scale games we develop ourselves. Rather, I think these indie games are what really invigorate Nintendo Switch overall. And then from there, Senior Executive Officer Tanaka kind of chimed in with what I guess their goal is right now. And that was saying, we're looking to release around 20 to 30 indie games on Nintendo Switch per week, and we definitely expect to see some great games among them. Here's the thing about this. 20 to 30 indie games per week is actually quite a bit. That's a lot of games coming out every week, and those are just the indie games. And what ends up happening here when you're releasing more than possibly 3 games on average per day of indie games, that's the thing. They're not always going to come out, obviously, different days. You're going to have a day where 10, 12, 15 games just drop on the eShop, and some people might not mind because they're like, oh, that's just a lot of choices. It is, but when you have really games that are coming out that are just junk, and it almost feels like they're not even checking some of these games out, and some of them are obvious ripoffs. There's a Monopoly ripoff that just showed up on the eShop. I played it, and I was like, what is going on with this game? It is basically Monopoly with the words and stuff all changed out, and it's very weird. We're getting games that look like they should be on the App Store, right? Like for iOS and Android and stuff. Not necessarily games that should be showing up in mass right now on the Nintendo Switch eShop, and it's becoming an issue in that right now there's no rating system on the eShop. That's something they should be doing right away, right? They should get some way for us to rate these games, whether it's a 5-star metric, which is easy, it makes sense, a way to leave just reviews that we can quickly type up. I mean, a keyboard works with the Switch. We could plug it in and type it right up. Or just some way to communicate this game is a cash grab from a developer who's just throwing it up there, hoping that they can get some sales from the Switch, which is very hot right now, right? That's a big issue right now, is that there's no rating system. There's also the possibility that with so many games showing up as they kind of are now, things get buried because it's just not set up well for this many games showing up all at once. I'm a little concerned about 20 to 30 showing up just with the way their eShop is set up. I think they can set it up and change it so that it can accommodate that many, but they also have to be concerned about games that possibly are really good being buried by games that are not very good. There's a lot of stuff they need to do with this eShop, I think, before they just start throwing 20 to 30 games per week, just in indie games, on this shop. But let me know what you guys think about this situation, and if they should just start throwing as many indie games on there as possible, or if they should either filter them a bit or change the eShop to kind of accommodate that, whether it's an indie corner and then you have the newer stuff from the bigger publishers. Let me know, guys, what you think about this situation down below. Next up, let's quickly talk about an update that took place from yesterday's Newswave. We talked about Darksiders 3, how the Microsoft Store seemingly leaked the release date. Yeah, they did, because IGN, who was doing IGN first a lot for Darksiders 3 with THQ Nordic. I guess they have, the deal, the marketing deal with them, essentially, where they're getting all the stuff ahead of time, and they get it, and they're the first ones to report it. It is coming November 27th for, of course, Xbox One, PS4, and PC. If you have not played Darksiders, I recommend going back and playing the first one. I believe they have like the updated remastered version. It's called like the Warmasters edition. Check that one out. It kind of plays, honestly, you'll play it, and it kind of feels a bit like a Zelda game. Seriously, I like the first one a lot. Second one, I could honestly, I could take it or leave the second one. The first one, though, was very cool. It's coming out the 27th, and they also decided to announce a bunch of special editions for whatever reason. And one of them is $400. I couldn't believe it myself. It's pretty crazy to see this. But yes, there are a few different versions. There's a standard edition, $60, of course, it's the game. Collector's edition is $150. That's the game plus a figurine of Fury. The premium box, a steel book, an art book, soundtrack, exclusive armor DLC, which is all cosmetic. The Apocalypse edition, this is the one that's $400, by the way. Comes with the game, comes with the premium box, a 30 by 40 wall scroll with a hanger, a 2-inch heavyweight amulet with necklace, and 4 figurines, which is Fury, 11-inch tall, War, Death, and Volgrim, all 10 inches tall. Why is there a $400 edition? I have no idea, but I guess if you're a big enough fan of this game. There you go. You can buy in for $400. I didn't even know there were people who were that into Darksiders, but at least the first one was really good. I would go check it out. I'm sure there are people who like the second one, but the first one I think was the best one so far. I am looking forward to this third one, to be honest, though, because I kind of like the change of pace. The character Fury that's been introduced here looks interesting to me, and I'll be curious to see how the story progresses here. So check out the first one, even the second one. They're cheap. They're not very expensive at this point. I think at one point THQ Nordic was like giving them away, basically. They're a couple bucks even on Steam. And what's really funny is Microsoft made an error on their site where they had all three of them, including the newest one that's not even out yet, for $40. They had to cancel them and start refunding them and everything, but it was so funny to see. And yeah, I guess THQ Nordic, I guess they saw Newswave and they're like, well, it's out there. We might as well just announce it. I'm sure that happens since, all these companies watch Newswave. Obviously THQ Nordic, I know Sega watches Newswave, and obviously I know Capcom does. They just won't return my emails probably because I call them cheap all the time. But hey, Capcom, if you don't want me to call you cheap, stop being cheap. Next up, let's talk about WWE 2K19. As it's not coming to the Nintendo Switch, we kind of saw this. Remember we talked about it being announced, AJ Styles on the front and everything. Awesome. But they didn't name the Switch, and I wasn't surprised. If you guys remember, I talked about it and I said, yeah, they should be bringing it to the Switch if they can't get it to work at all. If it's 2K18 all over again, don't even bother, because at that point you're just ripping people off. 2K18, by the way, still does not work correctly. It's still pretty much junk and it's a waste of money, and they're still selling it, by the way, which is crazy. But either way, I spent $60 on it, and I still haven't seen any reason that I bought that at this point, because it's still 20 frames at best. It's like a couple frames when you do like the backstage brawl. Anyway, they did release at least some kind of statement. It was very PR centric and it didn't really tell us much, but here's the statement they released. WWE 2K19 will not be available on Nintendo Switch. 2K is focused on making the best possible experience for WWE 2K fans and will continue evaluating all opportunities to deliver the franchise across additional platforms. Of course, now it's coming out to PC, PS4, and Xbox One October 8th. And here's the thing about this. Yes, if you can't make it happen, don't bother, but what you absolutely need to do is update 2K18. And honestly, that's a good way for you to try to figure out how this engine will work with the Switch. Obviously, there is some kind of, something here is incompatible, whether it's just not compatible with the Tegra, or your engine is just not able to work correctly with, I don't know, the amount of RAM in there or something. Something is not working correctly, or you just haven't had time to optimize it and you farmed it out to Blind Squirrel, and they did what they could, but they were pretty much given an impossible task if this is what they came out with. At least I would like to think that, giving them the benefit of the doubt. But here's the thing, if you're not going to make a 2K19, update 2K18, and then continue to work on it, because obviously the Switch user base is growing. I feel like if you had presented a good product, yeah, people might have been interested, but you can't expect a product like that everyone laughed at. Everyone laughed at it. Myself, RGT, everybody. There are so many videos on YouTube of people just making fun of it because it was so bad. I think what would be kind of cool is if they went back and maybe they made an original game for the Switch. I mean, remember when things like the GameCube had Day of Reckoning and it was its own wrestling game for the GameCube, and then the PS2 had SmackDown, and then I believe the Xbox had Raw. And they were all different, essentially. I really liked Day of Reckoning. Day of Reckoning was pretty cool. Although I have to say the PS2 versions of their games, the SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain, probably still the best wrestling game that came out in the 3D era, I would say so. I know people like No Mercy. I gotta give it to Here Comes the Pain. That was, I think, the best wrestling game still, now, actually, in the 3D era. But let me know what you guys think about that. Seriously, WWE 2K19 is probably still not going to be the best game ever. It's probably not going to be very good, as people made fun of 2K18 on other platforms, not necessarily for performance, but for bugs and glitches and all kinds of craziness. So it's not like it's an amazing game, but it's just a shame that it seems like 2K or Take-Two don't even want to take a shot at it or spend the time to make the game good. They just would rather just skip it. Finally, our last bit of news, I'm going to show you guys the UK sales charts very quickly. Not a lot has changed, and that is an interesting thing because it shows just how powerful Crash Bandicoot is over in the UK. Here's the top 10 here, starting with, of course, Crash Bandicoot The Insane Trilogy. That is still up at number 1 from last week at number 1. These, of course, are the 3 systems all pretty much combined here, the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Switch, and that actually overtook even Jurassic World Evolution that debuted this week at number 2. The Crew 2 is down from number 2 down to number 3. FIFA 18, Mario Tennis Aces that is still kind of hanging in there. I gotta give Mario Tennis credit, to be honest, because while it did drop, it only dropped 1 spot with Jurassic World debuting, and that's probably why. Otherwise, it probably would have stayed at number 4. God of War dropped a spot as well. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the same. Far Cry 5 actually went up to number 8, with Star Wars Battlefront 2 dropping down to number 9, and then Fallout 4 at number 10. So if anything, this should show you, yes, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy is still very popular over there, and everybody just wants that new Crash game. Seeing Jurassic World, honestly, Evolution at number 2 was a little surprising to me, because I saw the reviews for it weren't amazing or anything, but hey, there you go. I guess Jurassic World, it's still pretty popular there. The big story here is Crash, still at number 1. We'll see how long it stays at number 1, and honestly, I gotta give credit to Mario Tennis Aces. That's performing, I think, better than a lot of people expected in the weeks after it came out, because it really hasn't fallen too far down the list here. So hey, props to Mario Tennis Aces, and absolutely props to Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy for holding the top of that list there. When's that next Crash game coming out? It's gotta be what, next year or something? That will be fun to track those sales, just to see if that was all nostalgia that kept this game going, or if people legitimately want Crash. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Darksiders 3, maybe you're interested in it, knowing now that it is absolutely coming out on the 27th of November. Microsoft, again, telling us to release it early. Thanks, Microsoft. And then what about all those special editions? A $400 special edition? Does that seem like crazy to you, too? Because it seems crazy to me. When I saw that, I was like, really, $400? I guess there are fans who would like that. I mean, it comes with a bunch of statues, so I guess that's pretty cool. What about WWE 2K19 skipping the Switch? Are you surprised? Are you like, 2K18 was a waste of money. They got me for my $60. They're not doing it again, so I don't really care. And then what about the massive influx of indie games on the Switch? Do you think the eShop needs to be changed up to accommodate these? Or do you think Nintendo should maybe spread these out more, hold some back, filter some? Let me know. Or maybe you want them to stay just like that. You want a ton of games, all indie games just showing up. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.